the Marketing Director here at Executive Travel. I appreciate the time that you've set aside to join us today, and I'm actually excited to share this presentation with you. It's using a tool as simple as Prezi and how it can give you a massive boost in traveler engagement and compliance, as well as help increase best practices. And at the end, I will be walking you through how to build your own travel policy. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to today's speaker. He is the CCO here at Executive Travel. His name is Bill Lapierre. Bill has 25 years in various different leadership positions within the travel industry, with global roles in account management, sales, and operations. Before coming to us, Bill was the previous Senior Vice President of Sales for North America for BCD Travel, and is well respected across the country for his approach to corporate travel management. So Bill, thank you for helping us out today.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. And thank, as Brian said, everyone for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us for the webinar today. Some of you may have been on the webinar that Steve Glenn did on this topic about 4 or 6 weeks ago. And then Steve and I both presented at GBTA on the same topic as well. So we thought it was important to start out to talk about the importance of, or the reason why this is important to have a different format and how it really drives compliance and overall satisfaction with the travel program. So some of this, if you attended Steve's webinar or the session we did at GBTA, may be a bit of a refresher, hopefully. And then for those of you that didn't attend, it'll maybe help reinforce the reason why changing the type of format, the way you're presenting your travel policy, not so much the content, even though that's important, is important to, again, drive some of the results that companies are looking for, even if you're having good results right now. So the first part seems pretty obvious, but I think it's important to restate here. Some travelers don't even realize a travel policy exists. So I think it's important when you're looking at doing something like this to look internally and see what you've done historically to make people aware of the travel policy. So whether it's part of your new hire orientation, whether it's just on a intranet site or some type of site internally where you're hoping people will actually go and find and read the information. That's the first question we encourage everyone to ask themselves is, do your travelers even know if a travel policy exists? So then the next step is really what we want to focus on today, and that's why building a visual travel policy matters. So even if you've done a good job of providing your travelers with, and travel arrangers for that matter as well, and management, access to the travel policy during orientation and maybe on somewhat of a regular basis, and even requiring them to sign a document indicating that they've read it. Sometimes they read it and they're just not processing it, or the possibility that they're just not reading it in general. So, you know, we found that going to a different approach here is really, again, driving compliance and overall satisfaction with the program. Overall, there's been studies in the past that suggest travelers do want to do the right thing. Even if they don't necessarily agree with the policy, they want to do the right thing. But often the challenge is they're not aware of what the policy is. We actually decided to go down this path of creating Prezis for travel policies. At Executive Travel, we felt that there was a need when you look at how people process and retain information. We have to give credit where credit is due. We think that's only the right thing to do here. One of our customers, Ruben Levitt from TD Ameritrade, is actually the one when we were talking to some of our customers about a different approach to indicate that he was already going down the same path. So really this is in conjunction with Ruben that we ended up creating this, so he's certainly aware of what we're doing here. So why is building a visual travel policy, why does it matter? To start out with, often companies have lengthy travel policies, and although that's not a bad thing, they're comprehensive and answers most, if not all, the questions that people may have. When it's a lengthy policy, again, people have a challenge sometimes actually reading the entire thing or processing it. So that's one of the primary drivers for going with a more visual approach. The second one is taking a look at how people process and, again, comprehend information. You know, it's found that more often than not, providing information in small bit-sized pieces, again, people are more likely to read it and comprehend that information. So that's one of the other drivers as well. Next, going with this type of format, hopefully it will make sense once we start to get into the Prezi itself. I'll go through next a sample Prezi to just highlight some of the strategy behind it. Again, it's not so much content, but it's how making it visual will encourage people to maybe spend a little bit more time in it, make information more easily defined. And then Brian, as he indicated, will actually get into a deeper dive on how to actually create it using Prezi for those of you that may not be familiar with it, but to give you a better sense of how we did it. So the other one is making information more easily searchable and understandable. We find this format, again, drives that. Again, I've mentioned this on several occasions. I don't think you can overemphasize this too much. Really, you get an increase in compliance engagement when you get people to spend more time really looking at and understanding the travel policy. And then lastly, we find that it really helps simplify your job and increase your time. You know, we get a lot of feedback, whether there's clients or prospects that we've worked with over the years, that they end up spending a lot of time answering questions, whether it's a travel arranger or management regarding the travel policy and clarifying it. So whether it's a small portion of your time or a significant portion of your time, if you can make the policy more easily found and searchable and understood, that's less questions you may have, and again, better compliance with the policy. And we find overall satisfaction with the program because, again, I'll point it out here. Overall, I think travelers want to do the right thing, and often when they don't, they're just not familiar with what that right thing is. So what I'm going to do next is launch into the sample presentation here, or Prezi, and you can see it on the screen here. And there's a number of different formats you can use. Brian will spend a little bit of time talking about it. And you can see here, the nice thing is, you know, envision a travel policy that might be 15, 25 pages long, and someone's looking for information regarding lodging. This is much easier for them to view and actually drill down into the information. So you can see here, I can just click on lodging, and then I can see a high-level overview of, you know, what's expected as far as lodging for the company. And then you can see on the right-hand side, we have some bubbles that have a little bit more of a deeper dive into some of the categories. So I'll launch back out. I just wanted to illustrate the point that you don't need to necessarily start and go sequentially 1, 2, 3, 4. You can actually, once you understand and comprehend the policy, hopefully everyone's doing that, but then from there, if they want to find specific information, to the point we made earlier, it makes it much easier for them to search, find, and then comprehend the information. And the other point I want to make as we go through here, we certainly encourage you to have a comprehensive policy, whether it's 15 to 25 pages, shorter or longer, and make it available through this Prezi type format. But this Prezi, really, the way we've done it here, is designed to be more of a summary level of the information. I think more often than not, you'll find out people that are frequent travelers will have most of what they need in this particular Prezi, and if not, they can go to the actual, typically a Word document that has been created for the company. So what we've done here is we've created a welcome. So at a high level, it talks about what the purpose of the policy is for the traveler and the company. And we thought under the welcome, it was important to have a couple of pieces of information. One is the team. So if they need to find someone to ask questions, you can put the team here. So it's typically the travel manager and 2 or 3 people within the organization, whether they're part of the travel department itself, finance, some key stakeholders within the travel program. And then apologize for those of you that maybe not be using Concur, but as an example here, obviously one of the biggest drivers to travel programs is the online booking tool. So we often find to have that information, you know, here right away as well is helpful. And you'll find that as I go through here, I'll try to just do a summary level on each of these categories. But as I go through here, you'll see that we have some content in several different sections. And I think as you see it, you'll see why that makes sense to do that, because people may look at different areas for it. We thought it was important next, after the welcome, to have a get started. So it gives a little bit more detail on what's expected of the travelers and travel arrangers as it relates to the overall travel policy and supporting it. So the fact that you should book all of your travel through your designated TMC, the use of the online booking tool. It talks about the business travel and expense management guide and the use of a corporate credit card, booking in advance things of that nature. So I think if you look at this, it makes perfect sense. At the bottom here, we encourage, we don't have it in this particular Prezi. And by the way, we'll send a copy of this particular link out to everyone so you can actually walk through it yourself in the event that you choose to develop a Prezi for your travel policy as well. But what we encourage here somewhere in the welcome or to get started is to have links for information such as signing up for a profile or creating a profile within Concur, of course, and signing up for Concur in general. The next you can see here, we have a series of bubbles. Again, I'll touch base briefly on each of them, but they talk about different categories that are typically within travel policies. So we have here airlines. So at a high level, this first bubble talks about class of service and in general expectations for air travel for companies. On the right-hand side, we've broken it out into 4 different categories, giving them some booking rules, how to handle ancillary fees, how to handle flight changes or cancellations, and then airport parking, which typically you associate with the air. Most people do as well. That could probably fall in a number of different categories. The other point I want to make as well is you can have a number of different bubbles here. So under booking rules, ancillary fees, if you feel there's additional details that you want to provide that maybe not everyone's going to want to look at as it relates to ancillary fees, but some people may be interested in, you can add as many bubbles here, circles, whatever you want to call them. And there's different formats you can use as well. Once Brian gets into that Prezi, you'll certainly understand that. So it has a great deal of flexibility. So just as you go through here, there's information. Again, it reinforces 14 days in advance booking. The employees must book lowest practical airfare, taking into account the particular circumstances for the flight. Information regarding back-to-back ticketing or double booking, things of that nature that maybe some people still do occasionally. You especially want to educate some of the newer travelers on things of that nature as well. And then the last bullet here, no more than 5 company employees or 2 executives on the same flight. So again, this is typically, there's a lot more information, as most of you know, in your travel policies. So we try to just put some of the higher level information that we think majority of people are looking for. And I'll just go through under the airlines here, each of these bubbles so you can briefly see the type of information we have in here. I won't go through them extensively. This one talks about the fees that are both reimbursable and non-reimbursable as well, such as luggage. In this case, it's indicating the luggage is reimbursable if you're staying 3 nights or more. And then whether or not upgrades of seats is reimbursable as well. How to handle flight cancellations or changes. This is another section that you might want to actually provide some of the contact information and some more detail in here as well. So again, provides you a lot of flexibility. And then airport parking, what the company's policy is regarding that, long-term versus short-term, and you may have a specific vendor at the airport that you want your travelers to stay at because they have a discount if they're with the company, and how actually to take advantage of that discount. So I'll take a step back here again, outside of the airlines, and we'll just jump over to lodging briefly. Again, it just talks about specifically the type of rates that travelers have available to them through the company. Reminds them that amenities such as free Wi-Fi, breakfast, or entertainment may be included. So when people are out there searching the internet to look for, other rates that might be comparable, it's important to point out there might be additional amenities. So don't just look at the rate itself, but obviously you want to encourage your travelers to go through the company for booking all of their travel. So you use that information for leveraging with suppliers. You want to make sure you're supporting the preferred suppliers that you have in place as well. And then, of course, duty of care. That's becoming more and more of an issue, whether it's an incident that happens with the aircraft or the events such as a hurricane that are occurring right now on the East Coast, as I'm sure all of us are aware of. Under hotel reservations, in this particular case, it talks about the type of hotels that are typically that this particular company wants their travelers to stay in. They have an actual amount here that they want them to stay under, and if not, it requires approval. This is also a great section if you have a link that has your directory for your preferred hotel program, to add that there as well. Has information regarding the hotel cancellation policy as well, which is really important, especially for some of the newer travelers. And then also, this comes up occasionally, not often, but again, this is a great example of how this type of format makes it so much easier for people to find information that might be buried in a lengthy travel policy. But if someone's traveling to a destination that if they have family or friends and they may want to stay with them, what the company may allow them to do and how to handle that. So again, as you can see here, it's extremely easy to navigate. Here we talk about ground transportation. The thing I like about this is there's more and more questions that people are getting regarding ride sharing or the shared economy in general, Airbnb. So this is a great section to have information on that. So here they point out that the preferred supplier, again, if your preferred's not here, we apologize, but in this case it's National Enterprise. And here's where we've taken advantage of adding some additional bubbles. So it doesn't happen very often that if someone has an accident, they can go to this Prezi and they can see what to do in the case of an accident. Not a lot of information here. It's for illustration purposes primarily, but again, a great example, and the type of the vehicles that are acceptable within the company. So if you take if you step back, you take a higher view of this, you can see that the bubbles under the car rental are not viewed here at this level, but once you do the launch into the car rental, you can see it, that they actually exist here. So you want to encourage, if you roll out this type of policy, that your travelers actually go in there and see and play around with it, because there might be additional information that they're not seeing at the higher level view here. The use of personal vehicles is included here as well. And you can see that there's additional information. Sorry for doing that there. Getting everyone a little bit seasick. You can see that the company has additional direction on how to handle use of personal vehicles. And then I will just touch on one or two more here. Not a lot of information regarding passports and visas. Key contacts, it's really the same information that's under welcome. We thought it was important to have a section on reimbursable information, and you can see the different categories that we have, regarding reimbursable items for travel that often people want to see. And then safety and security, which again becomes more and more of an issue in today's environment. So before I turn it over to Brian here, I just want to recap that, again, purposes of our session today is talk about the fact that, often people, even if you've done a good job of educating them on your travel policy, making sure that they're aware of what it is and making that easy, we're finding that this type of format just makes it much easier to navigate in. We find people are spending far more time, in this type of policy format than the traditional one, for the reasons that we said when we kicked this off here. It just makes it easier to find information, to process information. It's in smaller, bite-sized pieces, if you will, and people generally retain information better that way. It doesn't replace your comprehensive travel policy, and we certainly recommend that you embed that within this Prezi itself so they can find that. But hopefully that gave you a good sense of what it looks like when it's created here. And now I'm going to turn it over to Brian, and Brian's going to actually walk through some steps to help you understand how to create one within Prezi. Brian?
All right. Thank you, Bill. Give me just one moment here and I'll pull it up. So Prezi is essentially an online version of PowerPoint. Now it works a little bit different. It has a little bit different setup and operating style, but essentially it can work a lot like a PowerPoint. Now, all you have to do is go to Prezi.com and create a new account. There are multiple different levels that you can go to. For today's purpose, I just used a free version to give you a breakdown as to what it can do. There's also, I believe, a $20 version per month that would fit 99% of companies out there. It gives you the ability to make your Prezi private as opposed to public. The free versions anyone can find online. But then it also gives you the ability to share it out to anybody you want, as many people as you want, and still keep it secured on your side. They do have larger versions as well. That could be for a company that may have multiple different divisions, or say maybe a parent company, an umbrella company that owns a bunch of different ones that each have their own policies, then it might make a little more sense to go to the $50 a month plan. But the $20 a month should fit 90% of everybody out there. So to get this going, once you log in, this will be the page that you start. They're just generic landing page on the inside. So I'm going to go right ahead, and I am going to click on New Presentation just to show you how to get these set up. Once you go in here, it's going to ask you what it's for, have you select a template. So the various different categories that you can go to, they already have templates built out for you. For today's purposes, I'm just going to pick a random one and use the template. Now, as I mentioned before, when you do the free version, such as I did, you cannot click the people I shared with. You have to do the anyone on the web. If I do click the people I shared with, right there, it pops up and says $19 a month. You know, you have to do this to make it a private Prezi, which obviously you don't want your company's information, all your preferred vendors, and possibly who your TMC is and all of that. You don't necessarily want that out on the web for everybody to see. So I would recommend the $19 a month plan. All right, so we're going to start right here and get this going. It's going to take just a second, but it's going to pull up the template all set up, ready to go for us. Oh. And by the way, one thing I did want to mention is that with this Prezi, it works a lot like an infographic. And what I mean by that is that people are said to retain 60% more from an infographic than from just word, just from text, which is one of the reasons why this is such a powerful piece of technology. So as we go in here, a few things that I wanted to show you is that you already have categories set up for you. All right, that's just part of the template. You can go in and you can name those whatever you would like. Oh, excuse me, went one too far. Click on it, and then you can change the name to whatever you would like. For this one, let's say travel. Just make it nice and simple. Oops. We can get those changed there. Another thing that I wanted to say is that a lot of people want to create a travel policy and really show who their brand is with it. As a marketing guy myself, obviously anything that is with my company, I want to have my company colors, my company logo, all of that. So one of the cool things about Prezi is that everything, absolutely everything, is changeable. So we can change not only the color of the bubble, but you know what? Why don't we add an outline to that circle as well? We're going to add an outline, and we're going to change that border color to be just a horrible color right here. So as you can see, you have the circle, and then you have the border color. You can set that up to your company's personal branding. Now, once you've created your categories, name them what you'd like. If you want to add more, just click on that, and it'll pop up another bubble there, and you can keep on adding. But once you have these set to the categories that you would like, let's go inside one of them. Once you get in here, as you see, it already has subcategories set up, subtopics set up. Again, you can change, rename those. You can go down as many levels as you want. That's the important part about this, is that it's not just a category and a subcategory. You can drill down to make it as detailed as you would like. So as I said before, going through here, you can change any of the text you would like. You can take out any of the images, add any images you would like, and drill it down. One of the really cool things about Prezi as well is that since it's built online, it is really easy. Let's see if we can do this right here for you real quick. It is really easy to add videos directly from online, although that did not allow me to there, but you can add a video directly from online. Usually you can do it with a YouTube video. So with it being online, it automatically pulls it in. There's no buffering, there's no anything. And so for instance, if you want your travelers to have, well, one of our videos, for instance, 5 simple steps when booking travel. You know, that's such things as booking 14 days in advance, making sure to book hotels with it knowing cancellation policies. If you build a video like that, you can embed it in here. And the last thing that I wanted to show you guys before I send you on your way is that you can change that background theme to whatever you would like. You can create any image to fit what you would like. As you saw earlier, we used a globe on ours, but you can fit it more to your company as well. And the whole point about this is personalized, personalized, personalized to your company branding. So I guess before I finish up here, I'd like to ask if anybody has any questions, if you'd like to see anything specific for me to show you or give you a walkthrough real quick. Otherwise, feel free to always reach out to me here at Executive Travel. My email is brianw, BRIANW, @executivetravel.com. If you have any questions about building a Prezi or would like any help, please do not hesitate to reach out, and I would be happy to assist you. Well, all right. Well, I will hand this back over to Bill then to wrap up. Thank you all for your time.
Brian, have you opened up the lines for questions?
Yeah, so in that chat bar in the bottom right corner of everyone's window, they're able to ask a question at any point. However, right now, that's a good call. Why don't I?
Yeah, we're going to unmute the lines here. And then if anyone has questions regarding any of the content that we covered, again, we'll be sending a copy of the link that has the Prezi when we're done here, so everyone has that as a sample. And then if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Brian or myself. We'd be happy to answer those. But before we let you go, we'll open up the lines here and I'll let you ask any questions. We always find it's beneficial that if others hear questions that maybe they didn't think of or questions that they don't want to necessarily ask. So any questions regarding the content we covered today?
All right. Well, we do actually have one question from Kathy, and it asks, is there a limit to the number of presentations you can build if you have the $19 per month version? Kathy, I don't believe that there's a number of versions or a limit to the number of versions that you can build. However, there are restrictions on the number of people who have access to make any changes to it, to the number of people that can be shared, and I believe also the number of templates that can be used. You can build your own template. You don't have to use one of theirs, but there is, I believe, a number to the preloaded templates that you can use. And we also do have one from, I believe, Yul. I apologize if I mispronounced that. And it asks, can we manage 2 different policies? And I believe you're asking on the Prezi, if it's possible to have 2 different policies within that Prezi. And again, with the $19 version, you can absolutely have multiple Prezis within it. And actually, I have another one here from Teresa that asks, can you change the bubble shape or the shape of the bubbles, or is it always a bubble? You can change the shape. They can actually be square. I personally find the circles just look a little bit more appealing from an aesthetic side of things, but you absolutely can have it be squares or bubbles. That's not an issue. So, and Laura, cool, asked, what makes this better than a PowerPoint? My answer to that would be a couple different things. One is it's a lot easier to lay out and do the animations than a PowerPoint. You can actually create this to have animations automatically run, so that basically it's like a video, so you can sit down a new hire in front of it and ask them to watch the video. But the main reason that I would suggest Prezi over PowerPoint is because it is online. Now, if you use Google Slides, that would work as well. But because it's online, it is a link that everyone can have. They don't have to download it to a computer. You know, if they're on a travel on their phone, it's a lot easier to jump on a link and click through it with their thumb than try to download a PowerPoint on the go in the middle of an airport running around.
Yeah, I want to add to that, Brian, as well. And then from a user standpoint, you know, with PowerPoint, you have to, go through slides sequentially. So if you look again on my screen here, you can view everything that's, each of the categories, if you will, that's here. A PowerPoint, you might have to go to the first page of the agenda and then find that particular page, and then it's really kind of interactive, as I pointed out before. So if you want to look at lodging, you just click into lodging. If you want to do a deeper dive into lodging, you can go into that particular area. So, you know, again, that's one of the other benefits. Not saying PowerPoint's a bad option, but it's just the, you know, ability to navigate the way you can here that makes it a little bit easier for people to see and find information.
All right, and I have a question from Chris here asking if we would assist in this setup. That is something that we've discussed here, is to have companies, if they would like to build one and they don't have the manpower or the resources or whatever you'd like to build their own power or their own Prezi. We have talked about having us build one for those companies, although I don't have any specifics for you yet. So I apologize about that.
Yeah, I think if you just reach out to, we'll again send the email when we're done here, and I'll provide the information. So Chris, if you want to reach out to me, depending on the scope, you know, I'm sure we can help you with all or a portion of that. So if you would just want to reach out, it just, again, depending on scope, it makes it easier to answer. So if you could reach out to me when at your convenience, I'd be happy to talk to you about that.
And one thing that I do want to point out is that I have built these for many of our clients, and the degree of difficulty in building them really does vary. There are some that you can go through and you can build them quite simply because their travel policy is clear, concise, short. Maybe they only do domestic travel over international. Maybe they don't have a duty of care policy. I mean, every company is going to be a little different. But what I would actually challenge you all to do is, as you're looking at your Prezi, try to find out how you can make sure that your travel policy includes every possible detail that it can. And the reason I say that is with the Prezi being so easy to maneuver around and so easy for people to learn off of, the more detail that you have involved in your travel policy, the more that your travelers are going to get out of this. So whether you're domestic or international, whether you accept rideshare or not rideshare, Airbnb or not Airbnb, however you'd like to do, I would challenge you that before you build your Prezi, to make sure that your travel policy is as robust as you would like it to be.
Any other questions, whether you want to put them in via the chat option here or over the phone? It doesn't sound like there's any more questions. So again, we appreciate everyone's time. We'll be sending out, again, as a reminder, a copy of the link with our contact information. And if we can be of any assistance answering any questions or potentially helping with their Prezi, we'd be more than happy to. So again, thanks for everyone's time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.